Insomniac in cooking really hard. We got tons of new information about their roadmap. So today we will break down everything in this video. Because right now, Insomniac Games is working on multiple superhero projects at the same time. And if you've been paying attention to the leaks, rumors, and everything happening behind the scenes, then you already know Insomniac is basically building a whole superhero gaming universe. And it's only getting bigger from here. So now before we get into everything, I want to be very clear. All of this information is based on leaks and reports. So please take everything I discuss here with a grain of salt. That said, if these details turn out to be accurate, they could have a huge impact on the future of Insomniac's Spider-Man universe, especially Marvel Spider-Man 3. So let's break it all down. According to a new report from MP First, the standalone Venom game is still in active development and is currently targeting a 2027 release window. More importantly, this game isn't just a side project. It's reportedly designed to play a major narrative role leading directly into Marvel's Spider-Man 3. In fact, the Venom game is expected to act as a story bridge between Marvel's Spider-Man 2 and Spider-Man 3, setting up characters, conflicts, and plot lines that will carry forward into the next mainline entry. One of the biggest leaks suggests that Eddie Brock will be the main playable protagonist in the Venom game. This might not come as a huge surprise, especially considering what happened to the previous symbiote host in Spider-Man 2. If this leak is true, it would effectively rule out Flash Thompson as Agent Venom, as well as the possibility of an entirely original Venom character. Instead, Insomniac appears to be leaning heavily into Eddie Brock's classic comic book portrayal, bringing him closer to his traditional counterpart. Someone who maintains a complicated but controlled relationship with the symbiote. Another massive detail from the leaks is the return of Cletus Cassidy as Carnage, who is reportedly set to be the main antagonist of the Venom game. This lines up with earlier leaks that referenced an internal Insomniac presentation, which also pointed toward Carnage playing a central role. Originally, Carnage was expected to appear in Marvel's Spider-Man 2 DLC, specifically the second story expansion. However, since those DLC plans were ultimately canceled, it now seems Insomniac is reworking the Carnage storyline and shifting it into the Venom game, and possibly Spider-Man 3 as well. One of the most interesting story elements involves Anti-Venom. According to the leaks, Anti-Venom will appear in the Venom game, but not in the way we've already seen. This version of Anti-Venom is not controlled by Peter Parker. Instead, it's described as a more monstrous, comic-accurate version closely tied to Eddie Brock. Unlike Peter, who struggles to balance power and control, Eddie Brock reportedly maintains full control over Anti-Venom, both physically and mentally. This contrast between Peter's Anti-Venom and Eddie's version could play a major thematic role in the story. The leaks also suggest that Peter Parker's Anti-Venom and Eddie Brock's Anti-Venom are two completely separate entities, not alternate forms of the same symbiote, even though Marvel's Spider-Man 2 ends with Peter Parker stepping away from his role as New York's main Spider-Man. The Venom game reportedly shows that he is far from retired. Because Venom's story revolves around Carnage, it's almost guaranteed that Peter Parker will appear as a major supporting character, actively helping Venom stop Carnage's rampage. Former police officer Yer Watanabe is also rumored to be involved, suggesting a darker, more grounded storyline focused on brutal street-level chaos rather than purely cosmic threats. So while Peter may be on hiatus, he's still very much active behind the scenes. Now here's where things get really interesting for Marvel's Spider-Man 3. Insomniac is reportedly working to include Miguel O'Hara, also known as Spider-Man 2099, in one of their upcoming projects. Based on current information, this appearance is unlikely to happen in the Venom game Wolverine or the X-Men project that strongly suggests that Spider-Man 2099 will debut in Marvel's Spider-Man 3. Remember, Insomniac previously planned a Spider-Verse DLC for Marvel's Spider-Man 2, but that content was canceled. Additionally, the multiplayer Spider-Verse game, The Great Web, was also scrapped. Now it appears that Insomniac may be reworking those ideas into a full single-player narrative for Spider-Man 3, this time centered around a multiversal catastrophe involving Miguel O'Hara. If these leaks are accurate, Spider-Man 3 could feature Peter Parker, Miles Morales, and Spider-Man 2099 teaming up to deal with threats across multiple universes. Marvel's Wolverine. According to Insomniac's roadmap, Wolverine is targeting fall 2026, and this game has been one of the most hyped Marvel games ever since it got revealed. And not gonna lie, the little bit we've seen already looks insane. The biggest thing people keep saying is that the gameplay looks like it could have that God of War style energy, and I completely get why. Not saying it's gonna be a clone or anything, but you can tell the vibe is going for that heavy combat, brutal, hit cinematic action, and that close-up intensity style of gameplay, because let's be real, Wolverine is Naughty Spider-Man. This isn't gonna be flying through the city, doing flips and combos in the air. This is gonna be up close, violent, savage, and personal. We're talking claws out, enemies getting shredded, and that classic Wolverine rage. And Insomniac has already proven they can make combat feel satisfying. Spider-Man 2's combat was a big upgrade, so imagine what they can do when the main character is literally built for pure brutality. Now here's where things get even more interesting. Wolverine Wolverine is confirmed to be set in the same universe as Insomniac Spider-Man Games, which instantly opens the door for something huge. Because if it's in the same universe, that means we could potentially see Spider-Man Miles Morales, maybe even some familiar villains, and of course other X-Men characters too. And I know people are gonna say, don't get your hopes up. And yeah, I'm not saying Spider-Man is guaranteed to show up, but even a small cameo or reference would be enough to break the internet. Like, imagine a mission where Wolverine runs into Spider-Man for like 30 seconds, just one cutscene. That would be legendary, and on top of that, since it's Wolverine, we could also see other X-Men characters appear. People keep throwing around names like Cyclops, Magneto, and other mutants now. Obviously, we don't know exactly who's showing up because Insomniac is keeping the story locked down tight, but the fact that this is a Wolverine game in a shared Marvel universe is already enough to make this one of the most exciting releases coming. The X-Men game is shaping up to be one of the biggest projects at Insomniac Games, and it's expected to arrive after Marvel's Spider-Man 3. We learned all of this following the massive Insomniac Games hack, which leaked internal documents, roadmaps, and long-term plans for nearly everything the studio has been working on behind the scenes. According to those leaked documents, Insomniac Games has been quietly developing an X-Men game for several years. However, fans should be prepared for a long wait before they can finally suit up as their favorite mutants. The leaks revealed multiple evolving roadmaps, showing that Insomniac's plans changed significantly over time due to internal strategy shifts and decisions from Sony. Based on the leaked internal roadmap, Insomniac originally had a very ambitious release schedule planned out years in advance. Fall 2026 Marvel's Wolverine, 2027 originally planned as a DLC-focused year, Fall 2028 Marvel's Spider-Man 3 around 2030 Marvel's X-Men. Interestingly, Man 3 was initially targeted for 2027, but it was later pushed to 2028 as the studio adjusted its priorities. The leaked timeline also suggested that after 2035, Insomniac would finally move on to a brand new IP, though it remains unclear whether that project would be completely original or still tied to Marvel in some way. One of the most surprising revelations from the leaks was Insomniac's original plan for Marvel's Wolverine. Early internal documents showed that Wolverine was intended to be the first game in a trilogy. However, those plans were eventually scrapped, and the studio decided to focus on a single standalone title instead. In even earlier versions of the roadmap, the Wolverine sequel was actually labeled as X-Men, suggesting that Insomniac viewed Wolverine as the foundation for a much larger mutant-focused universe. Under this interpretation, Wolverine could effectively serve as X-Men Part 1 with a dedicated X-Men game acting as the second major entry in an interconnected franchise. The roadmap also hinted at X-Men 3, planned around 2033, though whether that would be a direct sequel, a spin-off, or an entirely new concept remains unknown. Overall, Insomniac's roadmap looks amazing, but I'm gonna be real, they need to be careful too, because working on multiple superhero games at the same time is crazy, and Insomniac has a great reputation, so the last thing anyone wants is rushed games, unfinished launches, or games that feel too similar. But if they take their time, keep the quality high, and keep building this universe the right way, Insomniac could basically become the #1 superhero game studio. And right now, it feels like they're already on that path. But yeah, that's everything we know so far about Insomniac's superhero roadmap Wolverine in fall 2026, a Venom game potentially bridging the gap. And then Spider-Man 3 is the final chapter sometime around 2028 or 2029. Now I want to know what you think. Which game are you more excited for? Wolverine, Venom, or Spider-Man 3? And what do you think that mystery unannounced project is? Drop your thoughts in the comments. If you enjoyed this video, make sure to subscribe for more news and updates, and I'll see you in the next one. Thanks for watching!